namaste. Recently, President Donald Trump, on his way to meet the Chinese president, decided to announce that America will kickstart nuclear testing after a pause starting from 1992 onwards. There has been a lot of buzz in the media, there is a lot of buzz in America itself, and there have been counter arguments and statements being released by the world leaders. It is time to remove the noise and come to the content. So in this episode, in Conversations with Sriram sir, we are going to completely understand what is this entire statement leading to, what does it signal, the impact of this statement, and are we looking at a changing Cold War or are we heading towards a World War III? Because that's what the media wants us to believe. So we are going to take a look into all of these aspects in this discussion. Sir, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
My first question is, sir, what exactly was that statement made by President Donald Trump?
You know, as you said, from his helicopter while heading for the summit with the Chinese team headed by the President Xi Jinping in Busan, South Korea, he posted a tweet. That is, he has got his own platform called Truth Social. He posted a truth wherein he said, I have instructed my Department of War, which is Pentagon, to conduct the nuclear tests immediately because others are conducting their own tests, so we have to do it on an equal basis. That's the truth that he posted, and there is enormous discussion as to what exactly he means by it.
So exactly that comes when you are doing it just to meet one of your rivals. What was the exact signaling all about?
You know, the signal could be to unnerve the president, distract the president, also telling him that we are not a soft party, we are not a pushover. Whatever he meant, the timing is also quite either ambiguous or the timing is certainly not appropriate, because nobody understands what he means, but the fact remains that it's a muscular quote, it's a muscular tweet, and unbecoming of the spirit of reconciliation and cooperation which the world was expecting from the two largest economies today.
So one of the significant takeaway from this statement was that America has not tested nuclear weapons or nuclear bombs since 1992. Starting nuclear testing now, why?
So let's dissect what he might have meant by the post that he created. Number one, you are trying to rattle the Chinese team headed by Xi, point number one. Another, what he says is also not clear. Does he mean testing a nuclear weapon, which everyone does all the time? We do it all the time. We test Agni, Prithvi, we test a lot of missiles, and Russia the other day, we'll come back to that. So does he mean testing a missile? Because he said immediately, and he said Department of War. It seems in America, there is a division of labor. Department of Energy is involved in nuclear tests. Department of War, which is the Pentagon, is involved in testing the missile. A missile can be tested immediately. So you link up immediately with the Department of War. What you arrive at is testing a missile. On top of that, if you also attach the third dimension, which is on an equal basis with others, Russia recently tested two uncharted missiles. One is a cruise missile, another is underwater drone. Both are powered by nuclear power. The nuclear energy is the source of propulsion, but they are not carrying nuclear weapons at the time of being tested. Potentially they can carry. So there are two things about it. One is propulsion, that is a power, which is nuclear energy. So that happens all the time. But a missile or a drone carrying a nuclear warhead, nobody has ever tested after the Hiroshima, etc. So Russia did not test those tipped with the nuclear warhead. They tested uh, stuff which is powered by nuclear energy. So by that, by the fact of the Pentagon, by the fact of immediately, put all of them together, he must be meaning a missile, but the poor fellow doesn't know what is testing a nuclear missile and testing a missile powered by nuclear energy. So these are the three. Others are saying they have secret information, intelligence that China is ready to test a nuclear bomb, which is a detonation. And some others are saying that these countries, Russia, China, are testing secretly. And so put all this together, the situation is ripe for the next level from a Trumpian perspective. Yeah.
One of the questions a student recently asked me when we were discussing this particular issue was that in a last podcast, you had mentioned that the tariff game that Trump is playing is the new economic Cold War. Has the statement changed the nature then? Has it made it to be more strategic?
The Cold War is certainly getting intensified now. If you take the statement of Trump seriously, and I forgot to tell you, whatever Trump said, his deputy, that is the Vice President J.D. Vance, has explained it as a nuclear test. He didn't say missile. He said nuclear test. We have to do a nuclear test because maybe new technology has come up, and also to see that our weapons are ready, our weapons are reliable. So there is verification required, and therefore we have to test a bomb. But if you want to test a bomb which is the nuclear detonation, you can't do it tomorrow. You can't do it overnight. It takes at least 2 to 3 years for the testing ground in Nevada to be prepared for it. So the clarification by the Vice President is certainly not true to the statement made by his boss. Now you are saying, are we entering into an uncharted territory? Is it a new Cold War to the power of Cold War? Right. That is doubly Cold War. Yeah, you may call it the silent World War. See, since 1992, for a variety of reasons, there is a moratorium prevailing about the testing of the nuclear bomb. That is the nuclear bomb, a detonation, explosion, whatever you like to call it. That's driven by a set of reasons. One, Cold War ended, number one. USSR disappeared, point number two. Computer technology has come of age so that the data generated, the data that you have, it can be fed into a computer, and computer will tell you how far the bombs are reliable, how far the bombs can perform, and so on. That is the third reason. And there is an element of panic among the major countries that if they go on testing, it will send a wrong message, and there could be rogue actors taking possession and testing on their own. So partly for the concern of the strategic stability of the world as well, all of them together decided that let there be some moral consensus, because by then the CTBT, we are talking about 1990, Soviet Union exploded, after that disappeared. 92, George Bush exploded one bomb, and after that he created a new law within America that here on there will be a halt to the nuclear explosions within America. 96, China tested last. After that only 2017, North Korea tested. So now the point is, from there we have to go to the CTBT, shall we?
So, sir, one of these arguments that we just made, and I'm going to pull that strand into the discussion, is that the 1990s, right? It's an era where USSR has collapsed, Russia is coming up. There is no such rival to American hegemony. And it is in this light, certain agreements are in vogue in controlling anybody which can challenge American hegemony. In this light, CTBT, NPT, they're all coming into the limelight. So where do you see CTBT? What does it basically entail, and why hasn't America signed it?
To understand the CTBT, you have to go back to NPT, and you have to further go back to the Partial Test Ban Treaty.
Correct, sir.
1963, the world was told you could test a nuclear bomb, not in the water, Not above the ground, not in the outer space. You could test it underground. That is why it is called partial test ban, because you allowed testing. From there, they went on to say 5 countries already had nuclear weapon after China exploded in 1964. They thought, let us collude to keep a distance between the haves and the have-nots. Only us 5 will have, others will not have, and that also meant that India would be denied. India said it's discriminatory, it perpetuates a dangerous inequality, so we are not here for the NPT. At any rate, NPT kicked in 1970, though it's a grand failure. So NPT is meant to see that no 6th nation gets the nuclear weapon. PTBT meant that you could test only underground and nowhere else. That leaves a little gap. From NPT to CTBT of 1960s, NPT doesn't want the 6th country to become a nuclear weapon country. CTBT, link it to the PTBT, Partial Test Ban Treaty. It allowed a test underground, 1963 PTBT. CTBT says you can't test anywhere, neither underwater, neither underground, nor above the ground, nor in the outer space. And CTBT also prevents the enhancement of the technology in the making of the bomb. For example, unless you test, you won't be able to figure out if your technology is working or not. So if you can't do that, then you're essentially forbidding technological intensification, escalation, technological modernization of bombs for greater lethality, etc., etc. But CTBT, we never signed CTBT, but our then Prime Minister Vajpayee said, we have no problem with CTBT. If all others are there, everything else is in place, we will certainly be there. But in the process, what happened was, in CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, you can't test anywhere. You could test the subcritical. That is, before the nuclear fission process of the fissile material attains the critical level, chain reaction. Before then, you could it doesn't explode. You could conduct a subcritical test, generate data, feed it into the computer. That's quite enough for you to see if your weapons are working or not. But if you go into the critical stage, then it attains explosivity, which is what CTBT bans. American Senate said we are not ratifying because how can you rule out tests because we don't know where the technology is headed. You can't once and for all rule out testing. So America, China and other countries, they did not. America did not ratify. The Senate has the power to either go ahead or stall a treaty like League of Nations, 1919. Now also they pulled out of CTBT. So CTBT has a clause annexed to 44 countries. All of them have nuclear materials, nuclear reactor, nuclear energy programs. Some 5 have weapons and others only have reactors, peaceful. Unless the 44 countries sign, we cannot have the CTBT kick in. So yes, CTBT never kicked in.
With CTBT not kicking in, but there was still an understanding, a moratorium that you're not going to test. Now, China has urged America to reconsider this. It is obvious that America or President Trump is not going to pay heed to it. He's going to instead show off, we can do it. Does that mean we are now entering into a nuclear race of testing?
Basically, you are asking a question about the strategic consequences of Trump's decision to resume nuclear testing.
Right, sir.
See, 1992 was the last explosion conducted by America. Now, you see, in the world today, you've got America, you've got Russia, you've got China. These are the major players. UK and France, they are essentially sleeping nuclear weapon countries. American umbrella is there, NATO is there, etc., etc. We are not talking about those two. We are talking about the active 3 countries, America, Russia and China. Now, America has the computer technology to simulate a nuclear explosion that other 2 countries lack. If America tests, then you are giving a green signal to the whole world to test.
Correct, sir.
Russia will test, China will test, which means to say that a physical test means everything to China A physical test means nothing to America, by which America is gifting China an opportunity to race ahead in the upcoming deterrence 2.0. That is as far as China goes. China is very diplomatic. On the face of it, they are saying, just like Trump. Trump says, I hate to do it, but I'm compelled to do it because it's on an equal basis with the other two. What is Russia saying? Anyone deviating from the moral moratorium for the last more than 3 decades, we will follow suit. What is China saying? We are shocked by what Trump said and we urge him not to do it. Clothing your eagerness to test in moral language. Finally, we may be compelled to do it. If America does it, we may also have to do it, because America is known for its bellicosity, hostility, aggression, etc., etc. So, that's about the 3 countries. Think of North Korea. When everyone else is silent, they tested in 2017. Now you are telling North Korea, literally incentivizing them to test. Think of countries like, if China tests, we have to test, because remember George Fernandez writing to America 1998 after our Operation Shakti test in Rajasthan. We are essentially driven to do this because of China. So China does it, we do it. We do it, Pakistan does it. Yes?
Right, so we are looking into a nuclear
And
race.
then what about other countries which are trying to go nuclear, that is acquire a weapon, because the world is getting to be a dangerous place? Japan, South Korea because of North Korea, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, South Africa. So we are into a dangerous world. This has to be called a world where silent world war is among us.
Goodness. So, sir, what you just described is very similar to
I'm sorry if I shocked you.
Yes, I am. I did not anticipate such kind of spread. I thought there would be some rational players coming in, but yes, the insecurity would lead to this.
But I've only told you half the story. The other half is more weapons. And even more is more lethal weapons. And on top of that, your doctrine of deterrence is
Thrown out of the window then.
Yes?
Doctrine of deterrence is thrown out of the window.
Doctrine of deterrence is vulnerable to 3 factors. 1, madmen. You don't have a shortage of them. Point number 2 is miscalculation. That also can happen. AI and autonomous, etc. 3 is mishap, an earthquake here or any other mishap. So, doctrine of deterrence. But there is another school of thought. How do you know if the deterrence is working unless you update it with the new technology, AI, supercomputers and so on? So if the other party is secretly doing it, you are not doing it, where is the deterrence? Where is the balance of terror? Imbalance of terror is not deterrence.
Right, sir. So doesn't it then resemble the pre-Cuban missile, era wherein every country is trying to, beat the other one, developing and new weapons and trying to put it near their borders. The security, insecurity actually, the insecurity and the arms race, isn't it resembling that period?
See, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, after that you had the PTBT, NPT, and then CTBT, in some form or the other. And then in the 70s you had SALT. Later you had START. After that, INF. Then you have Open Skies. The new START is still there. So Cuban Missile Crisis told us there has to be a limit to our competition in the strategic field. So let's agree that we need to limit the arms. Nuclear disarmament is impossible in a world split among nations. That's impossible. Arms control, let's limit the number of arms. Let's tell each other how many arms we have, so that the other can also build up equally as many and there will be some balance of terror. So Cuban Missile Crisis is the closest to a nuclear war on the atomic clock that we had recorded. After that, we've been taking all the responsible steps.
Right, sir. So again, going back to the statement, isn't it taking away international credibility from America when America as a hegemon has become so insecure?
American credibility is, we are nostalgic about it. Presently, America is known for, exercising its power without rhyme or reason. You have seen what we have done about the tariffs, what they have done about tariffs. You've seen what happened to USAID. You have seen what happened to WHO.
Correct,
You've
sir.
seen what happened to UNESCO. And you have also seen the renaming of Department of Defense to Department of War, in which case Pentagon should be, how should it be spelled? GON or GUN? See, there is a problem there also. So, American credibility, American moral leadership is a matter of nostalgia. As of now, it is unraveling.
So that means that we are at a stage that, as you mentioned, that Russia and China are going to start with nuclear testing. What happens to the Ukraine crisis in this light? I'm just thinking aloud on this matter because tariff was being successful, regardless of all the criticism and everything. At least it was getting the peace deals done. But with this kind of a signaling, do you really think Russia is now going to ever come on the peace talks?
What worries America and the world is Russian readiness to use the nuclear weapon. China has nuclear weapons, but China will never use because the stakes for China are much greater. China is a technological superpower, a manufacturing superpower, emerging in the services, AI, supercomputers and whatnot. Whereas Russian economy is hollow, Russian military is substantive, and Russia is not going to give up its gains in Ukraine. And if you push Russia back, they have the other day tested the underwater drone powered by nuclear energy. They called it Poseidon. And they tested a cruise missile. And they are saying West has no answer for it. So what are they signaling? They are signaling that you can't push us out of Ukraine. So what will happen to Ukraine after this spiral, the test spiral, is anybody's guess.
So basically, we're moving to a very unstable world order then. The rules are out of the window. So coming then to the countries who have aspired to become nuclear powers, but have been stopped by America, Iran. Would you think Russia and China would help Iran now?
No one can help Iran because they have never said we'll help Iran also. The problem with Iran is very, very simple. Iran signed NPT. When you sign NPT, you're foregoing the weapon option. You look to the other countries to help you out with the nuclear energy. And somebody hits you, they are there to hold your nuclear umbrella for you. So when you sign it and then you are seen to be building a weapon, how do you square that? So Iran has no case for a nuclear weapon, and in the Trump's times, they are not going to take it lightly. So Iran violated its treaty obligation, and nobody is going to help Iran because America is fully leveraging its military and economic strength, and therefore nobody can stop what America wants to do.
So at this point of time, then we see an axis emerging. America and the NATO and the other allies like South Korea, Japan, and then you have Russia, China, North Korea on the other side. And if both of them are having nuclear weapons and they're testing nuclear weapons and they're going into the nuclear race, what happens to the global South countries?
Global South, we could float a platform and also leverage the existing platforms like BRICS, G20, to caution the world that what is likely to happen if you resume testing is going to be so dangerous that we better not embark on it. Let us resist our temptation to test and so on. But you must also remember, the primary reason for Trump's resumption of tests, if that's what he meant, because senility is one and ignorance, illiteracy is another. Both of them together conspired to make him, say things, the implications of which he may not comprehend. So basically, he wants to impress his local crowd, the MAGA crowd, unthinking, racist, countercritical crowd he wants to impress. For them, if you test, you are muscular, you are nationalistic, America first and so on. And America should always have the upper hand, otherwise we are dumb and numb and all that. So he wants to impress them as well. So Global South can, for example, a country like India with its moral credentials, we can, South Africa, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. We could all come together and urge the American leadership, sir, you please don't do it because the consequences can spiral out of control because, the world is also not safe today. Like earlier there was some peace. Today Ukraine is going on, Gaza is going on. Non-state actors like ISIS are there. For them to lay their hands on nuclear weapons, a micro nuclear weapon is not very big because of AI, etc. They could make one. So, sir, you please continue with the moral restraint, the halt that all of us have accepted. We could urge them. But nationalism is so muscular. American leadership is so aggressive and hostile and so regressive. Yes, I mean, it'll fall on the deaf ears. That is most unfortunate.
So one of the op-eds recently said that deterrence is now or has now become more of a perception game. If the statements might seem very, very simple, and it could also lead to a nuclear testing and, all of that. But at the end of the day, it is an arrow that has already been shot. Even if there is no nuclear race and the countries kind of go back to, strategic restraint, the idea now is that any single leader can just break the deterrence. So is it now just perception, or does it still work?
Deterrence is balance of terror. In the age of nuclear weapons, balance of power becomes balance of terror. So that is built upon a huge pile of nuclear weapons. Huge means ours is credible minimum nuclear deterrent. So necessary number of nuclear weapons, delivery vehicles, tactical short and strategic long and, Prithvis and Agnis and so on. Both the triad also, air and land and water. All this is the credibility and you have to have that. Beyond that, perception is limited. But then nobody is going to take a few words or tweets very seriously unless they are backed up with action. So perception is marginal. Perception may matter, for example, who blinks fast. If tomorrow, I've seen 2 huge pieces in the New York Times already yesterday. I've seen 2 in the Washington Post, and it's only been 48 hours. So, if going by the backlash coming from the democratic sentiment in America, if Trump says, no, I just meant missiles and we keep testing missiles all the time, I never meant Nevada, nuclear detonation, then America blinked, and blinked for the right reason. Blinking means backing down. You see, restraining yourself. So for next few days will be very important to watch, because one side is the MAGA crowd, which is self-destructive. Another is taking care of the world, because you are not another country. You are, $36 trillion, 5,500 missiles, and you've got all the technology in the world. You spend billions on modernizing it, and we are dealing with nuclear weapons. We are not dealing with, Diwali crackers.
True, sir. So what is this credible minimum deterrence that you just mentioned? What does that word or the phrase mean?
See, after we tested in 98, we told the world we are acquiring nuclear weapon. Any civilized country, responsible country, will have to have a doctrine backing up the nuclear detonation.
Correct, sir.
Our doctrine says that we will have credible minimum. Ours is second strike. We don't believe in first strike because we are basically pacifists. We are pushed into this corner. So credible minimum. Minimum means we will have only that many nuclear bombs as are necessary. We won't have redundant number of nuclear weapons. We are not here for overkill. We'll have only that many which are necessary, number one. But once we have that many, do you have the vehicles to deliver them? Do you have long range, intermediate range, that is, less than 500 is the short, and 500 to 5,500 is intermediate, and 5.5 thousand and beyond is your strategic bombers like a certain version of Agni and all that. So do you have the delivery vehicles? You should be able to launch them from air and land and water. On land, you should be able to launch them from even rail also. You see, you have the testing facilities, you got the scientific technology. If you have all this, you are credible. Otherwise, what's the point of having a bomb and not having the delivery vehicle that functions? After all, you have to hit Pakistan, you have to hit China also. Hitting Pakistan is other side of the wall. Hitting China, you have to go deep. So you have to have positioning equipment, delivery technology, everything. So that is called credibility.
But sir, credibility would also mean that we have to update our weapons with the latest technology. Have we done that? Or we are still dependent on the weapons that we made long time back?
Oh no, for example, right now this is November, elections are around the corner, you will test a lot of missiles. Because to tell the people we are technology ready, we are protecting your national security. So you'll see missiles being tested, multiple...
That's delivery systems, sir.
Yeah.
What about the weapons?
They are the weapons, you mean the warhead?
Warheads.
Warhead, the data we generated in 98, that data fed into the computer and the subcritical test, they are quite adequate for us to be up to date.
Okay, sir.
Apparently, no new decisive technological upgrade has happened anywhere, apparently.
So basically, we have the same warheads that we tested somewhere 1998 and 2000, whatever we made that time. The delivery systems that are what we are, improving upon.
But 98 is, we are the ones who have tested it in 98. Russia was 90, that's Soviet Union. America 92, China 96. So among the big people, we are the ones whose test was the latest. North Korea is not a civilized country.
Right, sir. Sir, in this light, one other statement that you talked about, and this is also in news a lot, that it is time that India changed its NFU, that's no first use stance, because a statement made by our Minister of Defense also kind of hinted at it, that India can think about changing it. In this atmosphere of insecurity and nuclear race, should we then consider changing it?
As of now, there is no provocation. We can continue with the NFU because we are dealing primarily with China. Russia is our friend, but there is no friend at that level. None of them has first use option. So we can stick with our NFU unless the madman says tomorrow in a post on Truth Social, I am abandoning first strike also. Don't rule it out this evening. If America abandons first strike, then he has imperiled the world even more, and others also will abandon it, China. So you will be compelled to abandon it. But as of now, up to now, which is Saturday, November 1st, as of now, there is no truth posted by the American president that he is abandoning first strike. So there is no compulsion for us to abandon the, no fast use option. Yeah.
So one of the other question that a student asked was that, has the multilateralism completely failed? Has UN completely failed to control this spiraling of tension?
Where is the UN? UN was there in 63 partial test ban treaty. UN was there in 1970 NPT. And CTBT onwards, where is the UN? UN has done nothing for nuclear disarmament, nothing for arms control. All others are bilateral. America, Soviet, America, Russia. And China is not a part of any of these deals. So the next deal, a kind of START 2.0, 3.0, that America pulled out of START. America pulled out of INF because where China is not a part of the deal, why have the deal at all? So UN is missing in action as far as the UN General Assembly passed a resolution 2017 about a nuclear agreement, asking all the nuclear weapon countries to lay down. What sort of is that an agreement at all that can be relied upon? So UN is, as I said, missing in action.
Right, sir. So again, I'm going to go back to one of the other questions that was asked was, after the Cold War or in last couple of decades, traditional security threats took a backseat, and non-traditional security threats like climate, food security, water security became the concern of the nations. So that is the reason why you have the Millennium Development Goals and then the SDG coming in and all of that. But today, the non-traditional security threats are being pushed back and the traditional security threats are coming back. Are we then missing out on the most important concerns?
Yeah, this has been the debate about guns versus butter.
Right, sir.
So if America starts testing again, and somebody said, how will you know if they are going to test? Do you have to keep an eye on Nevada, that explosion site? If a lot of people are running around there, a lot of jeeps and cars and materials and earth moving equipment, then they are going about it. If America does it, more countries do it. More countries pursue the ambition of becoming weapon countries. If the quality of the weapons gets an upgrade, if you have to produce more weapons, then surely that will be a separate world altogether, where there will be less emphasis on food and health and education and environment. There will be more emphasis on bombs everywhere. And yes, that's a huge setback to all the great work in SDG and before that the Millennium Development Goals and the rest of the work that we are doing, WHO and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So honestly, and there's one more the doubt that comes from, I have this is a personal question coming from me. How can one man change the entire narrative? Before him, we were not talking about these things. We were talking about sanctions, yes, but he just came and changed the entire world order within a year. How can...
But in your school, you must have studied the role of great men in history.
Right, sir, but how can... in a world where there are so many checks and balances, how did that happen in 1 year? We are now talking about nuclear testing.
But who knows? All this could be reversed tomorrow by another post in the Truth Social. I was joking.
So we all thought about the same about the tariffs, but he did put a punitive tariff on India when we never thought that could happen, but he did that.
But why did you think it could never happen?
So now I can believe whatever he says. And I'm sure the entire world also would believe, sir.
See, there is a huge block of voters within America called the MAGA, Make America Great Again crowd. They decide what the President of America does or doesn't. So they said a lot of Indians in America, they're taking away our jobs and they're not pushing you for the Nobel. They're not beholden to you for stopping the war. So another 25%. So, foreign policy, global policy by the most powerful country on earth has become so ridiculously predictable.
Predictable? Now it's more of things cannot go worse and then he proves us all wrong. That is what has come to.
Unless he doesn't know the meaning of what he said.
True. That is also something that we have to agree upon, sir. So moving on, is there any kind of disarmament mechanism present today that can, if the nuclear race happens, can prevent it?
Disarmament has never been taken up by any of the nations. And if the United Nations takes it up without the approval of these 5 permanent members of the Security Council, it makes no sense. And in these hardening times, nationalistic times, and where American behavior is so unilateral, nuclear disarmament is nowhere on the radar. The best hope for you would be to have arms control picking up a little bit of traction, with China included.
Going back to CTBT?
CTBT is prevention of testing. Prevention of testing. That helps. But beyond that, there should be some more about cutting down the number of weapons they already piled up. Russia 5,000, America 5,000, and so on and so forth. China has a target of reaching 1,000 very soon. There's no need for 1,000 nuclear bombs. So there has to be arms control, cut down. Yeah, but the global mode as set by American leadership is nowhere near there.
So would this also risk proliferation with the number of weapons increasing?
Horizontal proliferation, that is more bombs being built. Article 6 of the NPT says that the nuclear weapon countries, the 5 of them, have a treaty obligation to prioritize nuclear disarmament. They have never done it. They have built up a stockpile. So your question about proliferation, more bombs, is something we can limit. The higher quality of bombs with greater lethality, that's up to technology. More countries asking for a nuclear bomb like Japan, South Korea and so on. We are not very sure because the world again is uncharted times. Yes, coming from the number one country in the world. It's not another country. It's not Lesotho which is doing it.
So let's come down to the neighborhood region, and in a situation where India is also thinking about testing, Pakistan thinks about testing. Do we see further chances of tension, conflicts emerging? I'm not talking about cross-border terrorism, but a state to state. Do you see that kind of confrontation coming in?
As of now, thanks to deterrence or even otherwise, nuclear weapons are the most unusable weapons. They are useful only for deterrence. They are not to be used at all. Everyone knows you use one bomb and the whole world will be destroyed because there will be a chain reaction of this kind, geopolitical kind, yes, geostrategic kind, and we'll all be doomed. So yes, it is bad because there is so much of poverty and illiteracy and other challenges are there. We can't afford to have a Pakistan that will escalate the nuclear arms race because they can't afford it. And they are also into dangerous rhetoric. So it is not the most conducive atmosphere we could have in the context of deterrence, but we'll handle it.
Right, sir. So would India-US cooperation get impacted because of this?
See, after our Shakti operation 1998, we had certain difficulties in our relation. They imposed sanctions and later they realized India deserves to have the nuclear weapon. They actually gave us a waiver. We are not a signatory to the NPT. Even then, America said, mainstream India. Let the world deal with India as if it is compliant with the global norms. They even promised to push us into the nuclear suppliers group. 2008, we signed the Civil Nuclear Energy Cooperation Agreement. But in 2010, we made a liability law. In that, we made the supplier accountable, liable. And so the advanced countries ready to give us nuclear reactors and take the agreement forward backed off. And then the question of us being a member of the nuclear suppliers group has also been put on the back burner. So yes, since 2010, no American investment in the nuclear technology in the country has taken place. So that's a setback which is substantive. What more setback can we receive?
So in the light of the 10-year defense framework that we signed, strengthening of defense forces, in the light of this big news of the President Trump's statement, is there any scope of America helping India?
But the 10-year defense agreement which we have renewed with new provisions for co-development and all that, that has no nuclear dimension at all.
Can we add it to it?
We surely can if everything is okay with America. But nothing is okay with America right now.
So, one other question on this matter. Should India just not get into the race and take a moral high ground and say that we are not going to get into the race? We are going to be the global leader talking about disarmament. We are going to be the moral face of it. Or can that be an option, a policy option that India goes for?
Disarmament, if you use the term technically, is elimination of all nuclear weapons, not one class or limiting the number of the weapons. Elimination of all nuclear weapons is not on the radar as we have just now spoken about it. But India has a moral stature, point number one. We have a sound democratic doctrine, point number two. And that is, we have the credible minimum and we have the NFU and all that. Given that, yes, like-minded countries can come together, us in South Africa, Brazil, and we could rope in South Korea, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. ASEAN countries would be ready. Australia would be ready. We could make a case that step back because you don't know what you're asking for. Surely we can. A group of 10, group of 15, like that, yes.
Right, sir. So, what, according to you, looks like to be the inevitable phase coming in the next few years?
That we can talk about, provided we know what the implications of the post of Donald Trump on Truth Social are. What does he mean? Does he mean to test weapons? That is the missile, the delivery systems, which he always does. Or does he mean to test a nuclear bomb detonation in Nevada? If it is the latter, then I don't think you can ask for anything worse.
So, the last question. You had talked about silent world war. What is that?
Cold War is a very mild term for what is going to happen if Nevada is going to come back into action. So we have to, then we already talked about it. Russia already unstoppable, irrepressible. On top of that, you got a green sheet from Nevada, and then China desperately looking for an opportunity for a physical test because they need one. They need a physical test for data. They got the data in 96 when they were an underdeveloped country. They had no technology. They were making only washing machines at that point. So you see, then we are looking at a very unstable world, and that will not permit you to grow economically. Also, a lot of resource will be gobbled up by the war machines of the countries. So that's not the prettiest of the places to be in.
Right, sir. So, like always, I have about 10 questions as rapid fire on this issue. One word or one sentence as an answer. So, which rival worries US most? Russia or China when it comes to nuclear?
Where is America?
Right.
Yes?
US.
Russia for two reasons. Because Russia has more bombs, number one. Russia is more ready to use them, number two. And Russia is there already in Ukraine, the land it occupied, it wants to keep.
Right, sir. So, are we moving from arms control to arms competition?
Yeah, arms competition, the control in terms of numbers, nobody is breaching it. Competition could be in terms of greater lethality, or it could be more in numbers because the future is uncertain.
So, what is more dangerous, ideological confrontation or technological escalation?
Technology by itself is not a threat at all. It could be friend of yours also. Ideology can vitiate, but there is no ideology in the world today like there was during the Cold War.
So, what is the current status of the New START?
New START is going to expire in February 2026, which is just 4 months away. And it has to be renewed, number one. It has to be strengthened, number two. And China has to be roped in, number three.
So, is USA abandoning its rule-based order?
Yes, of course. Ever since Trump 2.0 started, rules have been destroyed. It's all unilateral, personalized governance of the world.
So, peace through strength or peace through fear?
Your fear is a function of strength. So, there are two sides of the same coin.
Right, sir. Is India's nuclear restraint an asset or a liability right now?
It is an asset as of now. But if Nevada kicks back in, then we'll again have to revise it.
So, India, how should it balance strategic realism with moral leadership?
That is your credible minimum deterrent and no fuss to use. Together they sum up what you said.
So, who will blink first, Russia, China, or USA?
Nobody is blinking, that is the worry. They are winking at each other. Let's collude.
So, that means we are looking at the light and heading towards it, straight at it.
Yes.
Right, sir. But still, game theory suggests that one of them will blink.
Need not. They will not get so close that they have to back off.
Right, sir. With this, we'll wrap up today's podcast. I hope you have understood what's going on and what is the implication of one statement made by President Donald Trump. How it has ushered in the new scene of insecurity, statements, and everything. Remember when we talked about tariffs and we had talked about how it has triggered a world divided? We are now looking into a much more divided world. A world where insecurity reigns. So it is time that we remove again the noise and look at the real picture. This is what we want to deliver through this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.